Colin Cowherd just exposed the NFL executives didn't miss on Shedeur Sanders. They dodged him. Not for his game, but for his name. This wasn't a draft slide, it was a silent blacklist. And now, that fear may have just handed the Browns their next franchise QB.
Colin Cowherd from The Herd with Colin Cowherd. What he sees in Shedeur Sanders.
I don't think there's ever been a player where there's a wider variance of opinion between the media and NFL executives. The media, myself included, saw him as a B prospect, a good solid in a very, very weak quarterback draft class, certainly arguable first-round prospect, maybe a second, third-round talent, but solid, good family DNA, moved well, historically accurate, good kid, not a bad kid, certainly a better prospect than first-rounder Kenny Pickett by far. I think a much safer prospect than Will Levis, who went second round to the Titans.
Shedeur Sanders fans, you are not going to believe what just happened. This isn't hype. This is the moment we've all been waiting for, and it changes everything. Let's set the stage. The 2025 NFL draft came and went. Dozens of names were called. Quarterbacks who couldn't even hold their own against junior college defenses got their shot. And then Shedeur Sanders, the name that was trending for months, the highlight machine. The NFL-ready QB with the poise of a 10-year vet and the heart of a warrior. He slipped and slipped and slipped out to the 5th round. And just like that, Shedeur Sanders, one of the most polished quarterback prospects of the modern college era, was suddenly seen as a project, a 5th-round flyer, a risk, a reach. But what happened next? Nobody saw it coming, not even the critics. Because now the truth is starting to come out. Colin Cowherd, love him or hate him, just pulled back the curtain on the real reason. Shedeur slid. And trust me, it's not about his arm. It's not about his mechanics. It's not about his tape. It's about fear. NFL executives fear the spotlight Shedeur carries. The confidence, the pedigree, the name, not the game. Cowherd said it himself. Shedeur was a B prospect, a strong quarterback in a weak class, historically accurate, mentally composed, built from football DNA. And compared to some recent first-round picks, he was a better prospect than Kenny Pickett. He was a safer pick than Will Levis. Let that sink in. Because if you know the game, you know this kid played behind one of the worst defensive lines in college football. No run game, constant pressure, and still he put up numbers. Still he made the throws. Still he didn't turn the ball over. The dude had ice in his veins. And just when you think you figured him out, Shedeur changes the whole game. See, the media saw it. The fans saw it. The scouts, quietly, they saw it too. But there's a divide, a massive one. Cowherd called it out. He said the gap between how NFL executives see Shedeur Sanders and how the media and even NFL veterans see him is stunning. There's no middle ground. You're either all in on Shedeur, or you're flat out missing the moment. Let's talk about that 5th-round tag, because that's where this story gets wild. Cowherd said something that made jaws drop. He hinted that if it weren't for Jimmy Haslam, the meddling Cleveland Browns owner, Shedeur might have gone undrafted. Yeah, you heard that right. The NFL almost passed on Shedeur Sanders.
And there's an argument, 6th or 7th rounder undrafted, if not for Jimmy Haslam, the impulsive and meddling Cleveland owner. So how he is viewed by the NFL and the professionals there, who I respect and trust, and how he's viewed by everybody else, it's an incredible gap. Bailey Zappi got drafted higher.
Colin Cowherd says there's an argument that Shedeur would have gone undrafted, if not for Jimmy Haslam's influence, sparking a huge debate over whether the pick was Haslam's or GM Andrew Berry's. This is where Cleveland made the move that rewrote the entire season. Jimmy Haslam, the man who once threw bags of money at Deshaun Watson with a dozen lawsuits hanging over his head. The man who's known for impulsive hires, chaotic decisions, and headlines that have little to do with football. That's who pulled the trigger on Shedeur Sanders. That's what Colin Cowherd is suggesting, that Haslam stepped in and said, "We're not letting this kid fall further. We're taking him now." And honestly, if that's true, Haslam might have just made the smartest move of his NFL career. Because Andrew Berry, the GM, said the team saw value in the 5th round. But let's be real. That's GM speak. That's saving face. That's trying to paint a calculated picture over what might have been a panic, grab, or a brilliant gamble. Either way, the Browns now have a quarterback room that includes Shedeur Sanders, and that alone changes everything. Here's the part that stunned even the veterans. Stay with me. Remember Bailey Zapp, the backup for the Patriots who had a couple decent games and then flamed out. He was drafted higher than Shedeur Sanders. Let me say that again. Bailey Zappe was taken ahead of Shedeur Sanders. And we're supposed to pretend this is about tape, about stats, about mechanics. No, this is about narrative. And let's talk about that narrative. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a brand. He's a movement. He's the son of prime time. And that makes NFL execs nervous. It shouldn't, but it does. They see the watches, they hear the confidence, they feel the spotlight. And for some reason, that rattles them. But here's what they're missing. That confidence. It's earned. The champions aren't made in comfort. What Shedeur did next proved exactly that. All season, Shedeur faced pressure. On the field. Off the field. His line collapsed weekly. He took hit after hit, lost games, got written off. And every time they tried to count him out, and every time he got back up. That's what separates the good from the great. Shedeur didn't fold. He didn't point fingers. He didn't vanish. He stood tall and delivered. You want poise. Watch Shedeur in the fourth quarter. You want leadership. Listen to the way his teammates talk about him. You want resilience. Just look at the journey from a top HBCU player to a Power 5 powerhouse, to being ignored on draft night. You're about to hear the moment that had fans, players even, rivals on their feet, because now, Shedeur's in Cleveland. He's got the chip, he's got the motivation, and he's got nothing to lose. And that's the scariest thing in football, a motivated QB with real tools and no leash. If you think this is just about the draft, you're not paying attention. This is about what's next. And what's next is Shedeur Sanders lighting up training camp. Training camp's here. Pads are on. The talking's over. And Shedeur Sanders is walking onto that field like a man on a mission. The Browns drafted him in the 5th round, fine. But he didn't come to ride the bench. He didn't come to hold a clipboard. And he damn sure didn't come to be silenced. From the very first snap, coaches started talking. Not just about his arm, not just about his pocket awareness, but his command, his leadership, the way the room shifts when Shedeur steps into the huddle. Veterans felt it. Rookies felt it. The media, they're finally starting to catch up. But what happened next? Nobody saw it coming, not even the critics. Because now we're hearing whispers. Not just about Shedeur looking good in camp. That's what teams say about any rookie trying to stay in the league. No. The whispers are louder, sharper, real. We're hearing Shedeur outplayed the Browns' second-string QB on day 3. We're hearing he's taken second-team reps already. And the Browns' coaching staff, they're not denying it. You know what that means. QB controversial. It's coming. Let's break this down. The Browns are built on defense and chaos. Deshaun Watson is still QB1 for now. But if he struggles early, if Cleveland stumbles out of the gate, Shedeur is waiting. And not like some scared rookie hoping for a shot. No, he's waiting like a lion behind the glass. Watching, studying, getting stronger, sharpening the sword. And just when you think you figured him out, Shedeur changes the whole game. Let's go back to Cowherd's words because they're echoing louder than ever now. He said Shedeur was crazy accurate. He said Shedeur's worst games were still clean. No turnovers. Composure under fire. Always productive. Even when his offensive line was collapsing like wet paper. That's what makes this whole draft day slide look even more ridiculous. Bailey Zappe was taken higher than him. Multiple QBs with worse numbers, worse film, and less experience got picked ahead of him. How? Because NFL front offices don't always trust what they see. Sometimes they trust what they fear. The noise around Shedeur, the family, the cameras, the pressure, it scared teams off, but it should have drawn them in. Here's the part that stunned even the veterans. Stay with me. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just surviving camp, he's flourishing. The Browns have a hidden gem, and they know it. Andrew Berry might be playing it cool. Jimmy Haslam might be playing the credit game. But deep down, they both know they didn't just draft a quarterback. They might have drafted the future of the franchise. And the fan base, though, they're waking up fast. Social media is exploding with camp clips. Shedeur firing tight spirals, hitting deep outs on the move, running that second-team offense like he's been in the league for 5 years. This is where Cleveland made the move that rewrote the entire season. Because look, we're not saying he's Mahomes. We're not saying he's Brady. But we are saying he's ready. You watch him play, and it's clean. You watch him speak, and it's confident. You watch him compete, and it's real. And now, the locker room's starting to notice. There are reports, quiet ones, that veterans are already gravitating toward Shedeur. His work ethic, his attention to detail, his refusal to fold. This isn't a kid coasting off a famous last name. This is a quarterback who's been built for this. But champions aren't made in comfort. What Shedeur did next proved exactly that. Remember, That moment at Colorado when his team was getting blown out, and he still stood tall and kept firing? That wasn't just pride. That was practice for the NFL. Because now in Cleveland, the pressure's real. The expectations are high, and Shedeur's showing up like he's been here all along. Cowherd even said this wasn't about skill. This was about perception. The NFL didn't want to admit it, but the fans knew. The film don't lie. The throws don't lie. And now the narrative's flipping fast. You're about to hear the moment that had fans, players, even rivals on their feet. Word around the league is starting to shift. Other GMs are quietly asking how Shedeur fell so far. Some are blaming their scouts. Some are blaming the hype machine. Some are just plain embarrassed. Because when you draft a kid in the 5th round and he starts outperforming your 1st and 2nd round picks, that's not luck. That's a miss. And you better believe Colin Cowherd's ready to remind them. He said it plainly: if this kid had played at Georgia or Michigan instead of Colorado, he's a 1st rounder. If his last name wasn't Sanders, he's a 1st rounder. The bias was real. The disrespect was loud. But Shedeur, he didn't whine. He didn't tweet. He didn't throw a fit. He just got to work. Now we're here. Pads are on. The film's rolling. And the question isn't, can Shedeur be a starter? It's when. Let this next moment sink in, because it might just define the future of the Browns and Shedeur Sanders himself. If Deshaun Watson slips up, even for a second, the fans are gonna scream for Shedeur. And if Shedeur gets that chance, he's not giving that job back. Think about that. The Browns have been searching for a real franchise QB since what? Bernie Kosar. They've cycled through names like flashcards: Manziel, Mayfield, Whedon, McCoy, RGII, Hoyer. And now, Shedeur Sanders is waiting in the wings. Calm, prepared, deadly. That's the story here. Not hype. Not flash. Execution. Determination. Control. Final note, and when this season ends, we're gonna look back at this draft, and we're gonna say, how did this kid go in the 5th round? The answer won't make sense, but Shedeur's response, well, he's rewriting the rules. He's silencing the suits. And he's proving every single snap that the game doesn't care what round you were drafted in. It only cares what you do when the lights come on. So Browns fans, get ready. NFL fans, watch closely. And Shedeur Sanders fans, you already know. If you believe Shedeur Sanders is the future of the NFL, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling us when you think he'll take over as QB1 in Cleveland. And don't forget to subscribe, because this story is just getting started.